Hi, Ian Gable here. This is first cigar review video I've ever made. Doing this on my cell phone here, on my Droid Razr Max, with the front camera on, so I can see, make sure I'm lined up, and just see how things are going with the video. I've already lit this cigar. This is a Perdomo Lot 23. I'm trying to get my little table lined up where I keep my ashtray and a cup of coffee, which I've spilt now. I'm drinking some Starbucks house blend medium coffee. And since I've managed to spill it moving the table around, it has now dripped on my lap as well. Because I'm an idiot, basically. Anyway. And I think my cigar's gone out as well. Yeah, so while it's out, I'll take a moment to talk about how I got to where I currently am in this cigar. I've been smoking cigars for several years now. This Perdomo Lot 23, which I've already removed the band on. I picked this up on a trip to Florida this past summer at the Perdomo tobacco shop there. Outside of, let me think, where were we at this time? Outside of Miami, just north of Miami, I believe. Fairly firm construction. It looks good. Towards the end, towards the foot, it's a little bit soft. It has a soft spot, kind of, not completely around it, but maybe on half of it. But then the rest of it's fine, and the very foot was fine. There was maybe half an inch or so in, had a little bit of a soft spot. The wrapper looks okay. I mean, it's not perfect, but no real notable flaws. A few veins, a very noticeable seam, but that's not necessarily an issue. Double cap, it looks like, perhaps triple, as I've been slobbering on it for a few minutes while I got the camera set up in my chair and whatnot. I used my punch to punch the cap, and the initial notes, just smelling it, the wrapper, nothing outstanding as far as any particular nuances, but it did have just a general tobacco leaf smell. When I smelled the foot, once again, a little bit of spice, but I tend to get a lot of that on just about any cigar where I sniff in the foot. Makes me sneeze. But then on the pre-draw, definitely got some tobacco, and then as I let it meld around in my mouth for a while, took a few more pre-draws on it. Dog? Got my dog out here with me. She's hunting mice in the furniture. On the pre-draw, the general tobacco taste, tobacco leaf. And then I noticed some cedar and a little bit of white pepper in there maybe, and a slight hint of tea. Pleasant, quite pleasant on the pre-draw. So I'm going to go back to relighting this. I didn't get very far. It went out, like I said, as I was trying to move my furniture around and get the camera set up. It was just kind of a last-minute thought to try to do this video. I've been watching a few of these on YouTube. I say, hey, what the heck? I've got my phone in my pocket. Let's see how a video will turn out. And if it has, maybe I'll upload it to YouTube. I use a Bernzomatic torch as a lighter. I find it works out pretty well. Turn the flame down here. Relight my cigar. There we go. Plenty of smoke. Not over smoky, but I've had some cigars where you light it, and as soon as you start puffing on it, you just absolutely fill the entire room up with smoke on your first puff. Not the case with this, although granted I'm outside, but same general principles. Right off the bat, I would say this would be a medium plus body. Not maybe not quite medium full, but definitely in the upper half of that, approaching medium full. A lot of spice in the initial puffs here. There's an underlying lingering taste in the back of the throat. Familiar. Haven't quite pinpointed what it is yet. Not necessarily unpleasant. Just haven't quite figured out what that aftertaste is in the back. And it does linger. So I guess you'd say it has a long finish. Definitely a lot of spice. Not harsh spice, but there's definitely quite a bit of spice there. Still picking up a little bit of tea. On the exhale, on the retrohale, the smoke, I guess maybe you'd call it woodsy, maybe. It almost reminds me of having a campfire going, and there's as you manage to breathe in a little bit of the smoke from the campfire. I'm not saying you're choking on the smoke, just you get a little bit in, as you're smelling it. Smells good. Then on the exhale, the way it makes you feel, not necessarily a particular odor, but a feel to the smoke, reminds me of that of a campfire. But very slight. I think I'm picking up some tea. I have a feeling there's a lot of nicotine in this. Not that it's making me, buzzy or anything yet, anyway. But kind of reminds me of years ago. Somebody I was working with had some snuff, some chew. I was not sure what the heck. Let me try it. The little skull bandits, in the little pouches. And if you accidentally swallowed even a drop of it, a drop of the juice, just the way it made you feel. I find that I get that with cigars that have a lot of nicotine, and I attribute that to being a lot of nicotine just based on that memory from the Skull Bandit. I could be totally wrong. I said I'm by no means an expert on cigars. I've only been smoking them for a few years. Still learning. I generally would smoke cigars with some high test alcohol, like a cognac or tequila straight. I find if I drink fruity tropical drinks with a cigar, tends to ruin the taste of the cigar. I think all the sweetness, all the sugars in the fruity tropical drinks confuse the taste buds, and it just makes the cigar taste bitter, off, sour. But something that's like 40 proof or something, just straight, I like. I've done the a Captain Morgan spiced rum. For a while I was smoking that, smoking cigars with a spiced rum. But I've pretty much gone back to just cognac. That's probably my favorite drink to drink with cigars. Now, I have come across a few cigars where a beer goes well with it. I've been really into this Shock Top raspberry wheat beer, microbrewed. I find it just phenomenal. I absolutely love it. And I've also found that even though it's got the raspberry to it, a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of fruity flavor to it, and floral, I find that it doesn't interfere with the taste of the cigars. Not sure why, just agrees with me. But I usually am an evening smoker, but I just thought I'd try something different. I'm into about, roughly half an inch of the cigar. Seems to be holding together just fine. Haven't any trouble with it going out, other than initially when I first lit it, took a puff or two, then started messing around with moving the furniture around, getting the camera set up, and that's when it went out. But I've been talking pretty lengthy for about 10 minutes or so now, and only puffing occasionally, and haven't had to relight or correct. It's got a pretty even burn. Not dead even, but really close. Got a couple waves. There we go. Got a couple waves right alongside. I start to see a bit of a crack in the ash right there. But so far, no real issues. Seems to be holding up. I have had where cigars, the cap will come unraveled, or the end of it will come loose. I've actually had where the wrapper came loose in the middle. Especially, I tend to remove my banding right away. I didn't always do that. For a while, when I first started smoking, I thought you smoke it up to the band and you were done. And then I'd smoke it, get close to the band, and then I'd remove the band. And then one day I just said, well, I'm going to remove the band first. Now, of course, the downside of that is if there was too much glue on the band, got onto the wrapper as you're pulling the band off, you tear the wrapper, put a little hole in it, and then you're smoking this entire thing. You got to try to put your finger over the hole where you've torn the wrapper in order to get it to draw properly. But I've learned to be more careful removing the bands. Although I have had occasions where no matter how careful I am, they've just got glue all over the bottom side of the band, and it's there's no way around it. You're going to tear the wrapper. That wasn't the case here. It wasn't stuck to the wrapper. Held on easily enough, but I had to work at it to get it off a little bit. It wasn't too terribly bad though. Still a taste there. I'm not pinpointing specifically. Plenty of spice. Nothing overbearing. It's not a powerhouse cigar. This maybe some white pepper in there still. Still pretty dominant on the white pepper. Still early on in the cigar, but at this point, I would say this probably wouldn't be a go-to cigar for me. It's not particularly to my taste. Not that I'm tasting anything wrong with it, just not real complex as of yet. But I'm only, what, inch into it, roughly. That crack is still held on, as you can see, in the ash, and I fear it's going to fall, even though the crack is at about half an inch. But we'll see what happens here. Okay, with that, I'll take a little break here. I'll smoke this down a little bit, drink some coffee, and we'll get back to the video in a moment. Hi. Welcome back. I had mentioned earlier about there was a crack in the ash about a half inch in, and during the break I went ahead and flicked that half inch off. Well, that's right where it was cracked is where it came off, and then I managed to get a good solid 2 inches worth of ash on there, and I was about to start taking the video again, and then the ash dropped off on its own after a good solid 2 inches. So I continued smoking it, and I finished my coffee, it cooled down pretty quick. It's kind of cool out today, only in the mid-50s. You see I'm getting some waviness, some unevenness on the burn, but it hasn't gone out, haven't had any issues. As you can see, there's, right here, the wrapper is starting to split. I've had this happen quite often. In fact, it's right where it looks like it's going to try to kind of come unraveled a little bit maybe, but it hasn't gone to the point where it's unraveling, and it's not at the seam. It might be alright. We'll see what happens. A lot of the initial spiciness has gone away. It's a lot more mellow. I would no longer call this a medium plus body. It's at best a medium, probably a mild to medium, well into the second third of this cigar. Very little spice left to it. Maybe a slight cardboardy taste. Not necessarily bad, just not to my taste. A little bit of sour, like grapefruity, lingering in the back of the mouth. A little bit of creaminess. Kind of wishing I had something to drink to go with it. So probably on the next break, I'll probably refill my coffee to finish off the cigar on the final third. Still burning just fine, plenty of smoke, not over smoky. The draw on this has been pretty even the whole way through. Little bit of resistance, but I don't have to really work hard to get the draw. I've had some cigars that it was just a shame because they were really tasty, and I really had to suck on it to draw the smoke through. Not the case with this. I've also had some that were so light on the draw that it was too light, and I like just a little bit of a resistance, and this is giving me that. The draw is fine. This is the way I like the draw. To me, it's what I would consider to be a perfect draw. Haven't picked up any real nuances in flavors or scents. It's a slightly dry smoke, not overly dry, but it does leave a slight creamy feeling in the back of the mouth. Coats the inside of the cheeks with a kind of creaminess. On the retrohale, there's a little bit of white pepper towards the back, towards your throat, towards the back of the mouth. Nothing overbearing. Mild to medium, the upper end of mild to medium, lower medium, somewhere in there on the body. As you can see, the burn is still pretty even. A little bit of wave, not a whole lot, just a very small amount of wave. See, it's starting to develop another crack in the ash there. Once again, about a ½ inch from the end. And that's probably where it'll break off next time around. That seems to be the going rate here. Not an unpleasant cigar. That initial feeling that I got where I had mentioned about the with the Skull Bandits, the slightly unpleasant feel, kind of deep down the throat and down your chest and your stomach. It went away for a while, but just now it has started to come back again. So I don't know if that's like I had mentioned. I attribute that to possibly nicotine. Doesn't seem to be an overly oily cigar by any means. I have had cigars where if you put your finger on the cap where you've punched it or whatever, you'd be left with a stain, and I've get nothing there. So it's no problem there. It's and I find that So I found ones that were like that where I was getting a lot of that brown stain. It was obviously excessive amounts of nicotine. It was very bitter. Been known to ruin an otherwise tasty cigar. Not in the smoke, but on the taste on the lips. But I'm not getting that with this. No staining, no juices coming out the end, nothing nasty. So this seems to be a well-made cigar. Other than, as I mentioned about the where the wrapper is starting to crack a little bit right there. Nothing major. It hasn't affected the draw at all. I haven't had to put my finger over it to get the draw. I'm going to avoid that as long as I can. If it becomes an issue, then I'll put my finger over it. Doesn't seem to be an issue, and that's about where that's probably about where the little bit of issue I had with removing the band. That's probably where it was. There may have been a little bit of glue that had stuck and had weakened the wrapper as I was pulling the band off, and through the heat and any moisture as I'm smoking the cigar has split the wrapper at that location. Pleasant enough. As I said, it's not my go-to cigar. I will probably revisit this type of cigar in the future. I'm not seeing any real issues that would turn me completely away from this cigar. And that's not to say that even if it did, as my tastes change, one day I may find this to be my go-to cigar. You never know. But at this time, I would say no. If I had, 5 or 6 of these, I would probably set 3 of them aside for a year or 2 and try them again. And then the other, 2 or 3, I would, once every 6 months or so, I'd pick one up and try it again, see how it aged in my humidor, and see how my tastes have changed. When I first started smoking cigars, I was kind of transitioning between pipe and cigar. When I was a teenager, I smoked cigarettes, and I quit many, many years ago. Over 20 years ago, I quit smoking cigarettes. And then probably, 5 or 6 years ago, I started smoking a pipe based on actually more like 7 years ago I started smoking a pipe based on a fond memory I had of my grandfather smoking a pipe. I remember the way it smelled, and it was a very pleasant smell to me. So I picked up a pipe and tried various tobacco blends, and had several pipes, and I was learning about the whole deal with pipes, and how to care for and maintain pipes and that type of thing. And I actually found that after a while, all the tobaccos tasted the same to me. I wasn't getting the different flavors from the different blends. That just tasted like smoke. Wasn't enjoying it. And I was at a wine festival at Smith Mountain Lake, and my local tobacconist, Milan Tobaccos, had a booth there. And I tried a couple cigars. And I liked it. And I bought a bundle of them. It was probably, 20 or something in this bundle. And I smoked those for a while and enjoyed them. And then I've tried a few other flavors. I find that I really like, for the most part, just basic premium hand-rolled cigars. I've tried the machine-made ones that you pick up at drugstores and that kind of thing in a box. don't really care for those. They are very papery. Just don't really care for those. I find that I like a natural wrapper, natural leaf, real tobacco leaf through and through. And I've smoked everything from, as I said, various flavored cigars, mild cigars, all the way up to real powerhouses. Very, very full-bodied, very strong, triple Lajero cigars. And those did give me a bit of a buzz. The very strong Lajero leaf. And I've tried things in between. I have not found my cigar yet. It's going to be a learning curve, I think. Just like with wine. When I first started drinking wine, I drank a lot of the fruitier, lighter-bodied, sweeter, like blush wines, white Zinfandels, that type of thing. I eventually moved to drier wines, full-bodied reds. I find that I like full-bodied red with a lot of toasted oak. So, and that took many, many years for me to find, as my taste changed and as I progressed and as my palate matured, found what I liked. And I'm sure it's going to be the same thing with cigars. So I'm going to take a break here and go refill my coffee and smoke this down a little bit more, and I'll be back. So here we are back again, the final third of the Perdomo Lot 23. Once again, have a good half-inch on the ash. A little bit of an uneven, a little bit of waviness, nothing major. But, as you can see, that slight tear in the wrapper has become quite pronounced. May very well become a problem in this final third. It's a shame. You can actually see the binder inside there. So I would consider this to be a pretty major flaw, defective. I've had this happen on numerous cigars. I'm not sure why it would do that, other than, like I said, because the banding was a little bit stuck on there, and I had a little bit of a chore to remove the band. Initially it looked like it was alright, but then as the cigar progressed, it became worse with the crack and the tear in the wrapper. I did have to relight it on break. I went ahead and where that crack in the ash was about a half-inch from the end, I went ahead and I flicked that off on break. Went in and I puffed on it, make sure it was still lit. Went in, refilled my coffee, came back out, and it had gone out. Had to relight it. Could also be because of the amount of humidity in the air. I don't know what the humidity is exactly. Let's see, look at my little gauge here. 61 degrees. What's the humidity here? It'll flip back and forth, maybe. It's supposed to. I might have to reset this thing so it's not flipping back and forth showing me the humidity. But it's probably fairly humid out. It has started to rain lightly. I'm well protected under my covered porch here, so that's not really an issue for me. I enjoy sitting outside on the porch when it's raining, as long as it's not real windy or real cold. Dampness is starting to get to me. I'm feeling it. That may have contributed to the cigar going out. In this final third, I've picked up the white pepper spices again. Those are pretty dominant now. Any sour grapefruit has disappeared pretty much completely, which to me is a good thing. I don't care for the sour grapefruit flavors in cigars. I've had some cigars that had that sour grapefruit flavor throughout. But this only lasted for about the middle third of the cigar, which generally tends to be what is referred to as the sweet spot of a cigar. The middle of the cigar is supposed to be the best part of the cigar, so I'm told. And I find that to be true with a lot of cigars. The middle portion of the cigar tends to be where the bulk of your flavors come through. But I've also had cigars that it wasn't until the very ending of the cigar all of a sudden picked up some real nice flavors. That may be the case with this cigar as it's progressing nicely. Even with the crack in the wrapper, it's not affecting the way I'm smoking it. I haven't had any real issues as far as the wrapper coming undone affecting how I smoke this cigar. Still not a whole lot of nuances, not a lot of complexity to this cigar. White pepper, maybe a small amount, very small amount of cedar in there. Still feeling like I don't see this being a go-to cigar for me. One that I would quite likely visit again in the future. Maybe perhaps try it with cognac as opposed to coffee. The cigar is not ruining the taste of the coffee, and the coffee doesn't seem to be ruining the taste of the cigar. However, I think that with higher strength alcohols, such as tequilas or spiced rum or cognac, tends to leave a cleaner taste in the mouth to where there's nothing interfering with the taste of the cigar. A lot of people drink scotch or other whiskeys with their cigars. I'm not a whiskey man. Certainly not a scotch man. Don't really care for scotch. Could just be I haven't found one that suits my taste yet. Don't know. Nothing spectacular about this cigar. I probably won't nub this. I'm probably going to say I'm about done, only because it's not one that I'm enjoying so much that I just can't put down. This is a cigar that anytime now I'll say, okay, I've smoked it, I've gotten all that this cigar has to offer. I'll give it another few minutes and then we'll call it quits from there. So, to sum it up, other than the wrapper cracking, it was a satisfactory cigar. Not my go-to cigar. Not my taste. Not bad, just not my taste. So, thanks for watching, and I'll go and I'll end the video here, and take a few more draws on the cigar, and see what happens with possibly posting this on YouTube and see where we go from there. And if it turns out okay, maybe I'll continue to do some cigar reviews. I tend to try to keep a broad palette, try to keep a broad range of cigars I smoke, everything from mild to full-bodied, everything in between. I think generally I tend to like the fuller-bodied cigars. However, I like to continue to explore various strengths and various blends, various manufacturers, various sizes within the same cigar, just to see how the particular blend smokes with different sizes and whatnot. So I hope that I've brought some insight to people wanting to try, if you haven't already, a Perdomo Lot 23. Thanks for watching.